Alright, so this is a kind of a in-between video, in between layers. Because these are German vinyl kits, I have discovered that every time I have done a German vinyl kit, their fingers and their toes have really porous type of a problem with them, and they suck the paint in. So I just finished cooking them in my oven, so they're really hot and really pliable. In order to prevent them from sucking in the paint, I am going to put a protective finish over them with the thinning medium, Genesis thinning medium. I do this on just the fingers and just the toes. Anywhere that I think the paint is going to have issues. And for some reason, it's always the tips of the fingers and the tips of the toes that have an issue with the paint being sucked in. So I'm going to put this on. I have to put it on hot. At least that's from my own experience. If I put it on hot, it seems to work better. I'm going to put it on my cooling rack while I grab another piece. I put on the bottoms and the tops. Ooh, hot. And I make sure it's not gloopy or gloppy so that it doesn't cause an unpleasant feature when I get ready to actually add paint to these parts. Occasionally the problem will exist on the ears and the nose too, but I don't really know why. But without fail, on pretty much every German vinyl kit I've ever made, it's one finger or one toe or multiple fingers or multiple toes will have this same problem. So when I know I'm going to work on a German vinyl kit, I always just make sure this is a step I take before I go on from the base layers onto my details. I'm going to let them cool off a tiny bit on these racks so that when I put them back in, they're not going to burn or melt. So just cool enough so that it doesn't do that, but not completely cold, or it's going to undo everything I just did. Trying to get on all the different sides of these fingers and toes. I promise this is really worth it. You won't have any issues with the paint absorbing funny on any pieces and parts. So I make sure I do this with a wash sponge. You see how it's kind of flaring out? If I did that with one of my modeling sponges, it would make it really thick and dense. This is a good sponge for like blending ethnic layers because it's nice and condensed. But when it comes to modeling, or when it comes to the matte finish, it gives it a more realistic thin coverage if you use the softer sponge. Okay, so I'm going to let these guys cool off a little bit. I'm going to cook them one more time, and then I'm going to let them cool completely before I move on to my next step with Suki. Amaya is not the same kind of vinyl. She is German, but she's a softer German vinyl, so I don't think I'll have to do this on her fingers and toes. So as soon as this layer is done, then I'll move on to the next step in my series.